Awesome. Shall we get started? Happy Monday, everybody. So in announcements, Jarv, over to you.
Thanks, Amy. I just wanted to signal boost a couple of improvements to the changelog. The changelog logic, which was sort of being messed up by the recent locking environments so that we don't have simultaneous deploys. So there should be 2 improvements that just got merged. If you have any other suggestions for how to make this easier, I know it's been a little bit rough. Sometimes it can be difficult to troubleshoot why an environment is failing on the prepare stage, but hopefully it should be easier now. That's it for me. And next is Amy for friends and family.
Cool, thank you. So yeah, just a reminder, Friends and Family Day on Friday. Mayra, it's a great question.
Yeah, I wonder if we should pause the auto deploy processes that day. I think that's what we did on the last Family and Friends Day.
Maybe just force the promotion, I guess, so that we still auto deploy to staging.
I'm fine with automated staging deploys via Canary and production pausing. Sounds like a good plan.
Sounds good.
Cool, sounds like a good plan. Can leave it up to release managers to manage that one. Awesome, thanks for raising that, Mayra. So next one is on Wednesday, you haven't asked me anything about releases. So mostly just heads up, great if at least some of you could be around there, just in case we get questions that you're more capable of answering, sorry. So, or if you have anything you want to ask as well. And then final announcement is, I should say, well done, both Mayra and Robert. Awesome that we got through the security release last week on time, as well as running the first experiment. So I know you'll give us more details in a few minutes, but yeah, I really want to say huge milestone. So well done with that. Awesome. So on to discussion. So I've been thinking about our issue workflow, and before I went too far thinking about a way of doing this, I just wanted to kind of run the early stages through with you and see if there's anything I'm missing. So I'm thinking about how do we get our issues into, or have some sort of workflow that's easy to use and suits us, but makes it really easy so that people can just drop in and see, okay, this stuff is in progress and this stuff is coming up next. So that's kind of just basic stuff. But then the other bit I was thinking about, which might actually be useful, is at the moment, it feels like we raise issues and then it's a bit sort of reliant on you all kind of just keeping an eye on that and jumping in on issues. We don't really have a good way of saying, like, this is the issue that we most need to work out, like a solution out for, or, you know, like this one is going to be a problem in a few weeks, or any sort of prioritization about things that we triage. So looking at our workflow at the moment, everything is basically in triage until someone picks it up and does it. We don't have anything to say like that this thing is like a super early stage idea and we need to think about this properly, or this is actually something which is ready to be picked up. We don't really have any distinction between very rough ideas and something you can just pick up. So trying to think about that as we sort of put together a process. But so that's kind of 2 requirements, I guess, in my head. One is mostly, I guess, somebody outside the team. It might be useful for us, but I think it'll be more useful for somebody outside the team can drop in somewhere and see this stuff is in progress and this stuff's coming next. And then the other one is within our team, we have a good idea of these X issues, 3, 4 issues are likely going to be things we're working on soon, and I should prioritize thinking about them above other stuff. Like, what are the other requirements that we want to capture in our workflow?
Interesting. One thing you mentioned, we do have a proposal workflow label, right? For that, so that could be used for stuff that's proposed rather than awaiting triage.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it might, I don't think it's going to be like a whole new process. I think it's literally just going to be getting a little bit of structure around those things. Because yeah, exactly. That's a great point. Cool. Okay.
This is sort of just just kind of a random thought, but would it make sense for us to arrange our work around monthly release milestones, even though we don't really have release deliverables? This is just one thing I feel like it would be nice to kind of know what, like, or at least to have some kind of planning on what we plan to deliver over the course of an iteration, where an iteration would be like about a month, which kind of lines up with the monthly releases. But and since every other or most other teams are using it anyway, would it make sense for us to use that as well?
I think it could be helpful. I do think that we are in sort of a bit of an opposition where a lot of the work we do is usually multi-month work. Like if you're on some team where your task is to build features or fix bugs or whatever, that's usually something where you can sort of time box it quite well. Whereas with some of our work, like, I don't know, let's say migrating to Kubernetes, whatever, probably on a monthly basis, there are sort of certain subtasks. But I think to tackle that, we have to basically take a very good look, like, okay, how are we going to sort of spread this on these sort of iterations, so we don't end up saying like, oh yeah, you know, this month I'm going to do the same thing as last month, basically. Because if we're at that state, then, you know, it's not really beneficial. But yeah, I do think having some sort of iteration where we plan certain things, look back at it, could be helpful. At least a bit more structured compared to what we have now, which is basically, oh, this quarter we have these OKRs, have fun, basically.
Cool. Okay, that's really helpful. So I think what I'm gonna do, I'll put an issue. I'll open up an issue so you can all see the stuff and start dropping ideas and things in there. I'm mostly thinking that we can take advantage of some of the time that we have in this meeting, either weekly or the beginning of the month, or whenever it makes sense to actually sort of work out like what sort of goals we want. And I'm not at all expecting that we would say, like, for the next month, we will do these 27 tasks and that's absolutely it, right? There would definitely be room for us to respond to things coming in and flex, but just think in terms of the bigger pieces that either we are thinking of or we sort of have in our mind. I think having everybody together and actually sharing ideas on like what are our biggest pain points, or like what do we think is going to give us the biggest benefit if we actually worked out a solution, might help us progress through some of this stuff. Awesome. So over to you, Mayra.
Yes, thank you, Amy. So just a brief recap about the experiment we did last week. So this experiment allows us to confirm that security fixes can be part of the auto-deploy processes. And what we did for that, well, we did a bunch of things, but I tried to summarize the most important ones. First of all is that we moved the creation of auto-deploy branches to security only. That means that auto-deploy branches are not longer created on canonical repositories. Then we updated security master with the content of canonical master through merge train. And answering your question, Jarv, we no longer use security push mirroring. Master branch between canonical and security is updated only through merge train.
Only when they're diverged, but yeah.
Yeah, only when they are diverged.
So it's completely the push mirroring is just disabled then between canonical and security?
Just for master, we no longer do it in master, but stable branches are still, protected branches are still push mirror. If I am
it's
not
still
mistaken.
enabled, so master just shows up as a diverged ref and everything else gets mirrored.
Oh, so you see a bunch of errors, but it actually does work. Okay.
that one particular area.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so, and we also did some modification to the release tools, like implementation details to make it work. And the actual experiment was that during a small window of time between Friday and Tuesday last week, we merged security fixes targeting master, we picked them into auto-deploy, and we deploy them to our different environments, staging, canary, and production, along with regular fixes. Something that is not written here, but it is interesting, is that 9 out of 10 security fixes that were included into the security release were deployed before the security release started. So that actually speeded up a lot the security release. And so Jarvis is asking that if we are still using pickit auto deploy on gitlab.com. Yeah, so as release manager, I have noticed that the traffic of those merge requests has like come down a lot. I mean, the functionalities is still there, but since we deployed a lot to production at least twice a day, we don't get a lot of those.
Does it work with the security? How does it work with the security with the auto deploy branch on security? We pick from GitLab.com to, or I guess it gets mirrored over to the security project, and then we pick it.
Yeah, so
How would
the merge requests on Canonical, we merge into master, and then that gets merged through the merge train. So that commit becomes available on security, and then we use security to pick it from that repository into the auto deploy branch. So there's an assertion there that like first we make sure this commit has actually been mirrored to the security repository first, and then attempt to cherry pick it. Otherwise, it fails loudly. It's not ideal, but it
actually worked.
It worked. Yeah, we tried it.
Wow, cool.
There is another piece of functionality we haven't done yet where you can label a security merge request pick into auto deploy, but I'm not sure we even need that anymore, right? Because it'll get merged early into master and then just automatically picked into auto deploy, because we always want every security fix, right? So maybe we don't even need that.
Yeah, I wonder whether we can just get rid of the whole pick into auto deploy logic.
If we start,
if
we start like deploying straight from master or merging master quickly enough, then yeah, possibly.
Yeah,
I was going to suggest the same, because there's a proposal for me to start auto deploying or start creating auto deploy branches twice a day at the very least. And I think with the time it takes for building packages and etc., that's going to be just as fast as picking essentially. Because when we pick, it's 1 hour for testing pipelines, and it's like 2 hours for building packages and getting it to staging, like 2.5, something like that. It's like, I think like half an hour or so for canary, and then it's basically the same time as the whole pick into auto deploy thing. And I think, at least in the last month, I've not heard a single person ask like, hey, can we pick this into auto deploy?
Yeah, we can go back through the logs in Elasticsearch and see what's actually been picked. I'll do that.
I have one more question. Does the so the mirror status chatops command, that includes the merge train now, or it doesn't?
No, it's still separate, and it's also only run manually currently. We were talking about how often to run it and when to run it.
Okay, cool.
Does anyone else have any other question?
Do you want to briefly give a sort of idea, like, I know it's not going to be the answer because we haven't had the security meeting, but like a brief view of like what we might do next?
Yep, so the next steps is basically now to modify the security release process to be executed like the same way we executed the experiment, merging merge requests that are ready early, and then the backports are merged during the actual security release. And yep, I mean, in a very broad sense, that will be the major next step.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks for sharing that stuff. Cool. Is there anything else anybody wants to have on this before I stop the recording?